What is up, everyone? YouTube, it is us again for episode 6 Crowdfunding Comics. Your boy, the brain of the mainframe Nile Scala, with the one and only, the brilliant, the man. Some may call him I don't know. But anywho, Billy Tucci, my friend, how we doing tonight?
What's up?
YouTube,
doing pretty great. Doing pretty terrific, I gotta tell you. How you doing, Nile? How's everything going tonight?
I am doing fantastic, my friend. It's Tuesday. I had a great day. I'm pumped for tonight. We have an amazing guest, great guy, and I'm just really excited to mingle and chat and get to know him a little better.
Yeah, and this is our second show this week, and our guests just keep on getting better. We're having a lot of fun here. And without further ado, let me do this. Tonight's special guest is one of the most talented, amiable, and manly creators in the industry. From his time growing up surfing on the South Shore of Long Island to his Florida swamp adventures, killing constrictors and capturing alligators for zoos, which inspired his critically acclaimed webcomic Sunshine State, to now planning a war with Canada outside Buffalo, New York. He's worked on some of the greatest comic titles, from Transformers to the nationally syndicated icons The Phantom and Rex Morgan ND, to his IDW horror adventure series Joe Frankenstein, to his epic 26-issue run on Hawkworld, to becoming one of the most legendary Batman artists of all time, which includes Detective Comics, Nightfall, and Night's End, to even the immortal co-creation of Batman's smartest, most brutal, and yet human villain, Bane, with the incomparable Chuck Dixon. But what he's perhaps most beloved for is his wonderfully boolicious creator-owned series, Monster Island.
Yes.
Currently on its second Kickstarter campaign. Nile, would you like to roll the clip?
Rolling the clip.
Hi comics and monster fans, welcome to the Return to Monster Island Kickstarter campaign. I'm Graham Nolan. You probably know my work from my years of working at Marvel and DC Comics. I'm the designer and co-creator of the Batman villain Bane. I've recently partnered with my friends at Ominous Press to bring you the 20th anniversary edition of Monster Island. And thanks to all of the backers that supported the project, it was a great success, and we can finally bring to you the long-awaited sequel, Return to Monster Island. It's been 20 years in the making, and I think everybody's been patient long enough. Return to Monster Island is the long-awaited sequel to my original story, Monster Island. It's been 20 years in the making. I've always wanted to do the sequel and the subsequent sequels. This was originally an idea that had 4 story parts, and this obviously is the first one. 2 years have passed since the original adventure, and our heroes, Mac and Duke, are called back to action. When the Monster Island shows up on the Navy radar screens above the Bering Sea, it's a race against time to get there before the Russians. A group of aliens has taken over the island, and our heroes have to set things right before the island disappears once more. New characters, new monsters, and new dangers await you on the Return to Monster Island. Some of the great rewards for this campaign include Return to Monster Island in full color, a colorized version of the original Monster Island, commission art done by me, and lots of other great stuff. Thank you for joining us for Return to Monster Island. I hope you'll consider pledging your support to this campaign. I know with your help it'll be a huge success.
All right, Billy, without further ado.
Yeah, so without further ado, I am so proud to introduce my great friend. I'm a fan. I'm sorry. My great friend, whom I'm a fan. I'm reading my thing. But the man I would invade Canada with, Mr. Graham Nolan.
Yeah. What is going on, Graham?
Lads. Top
Salute.
Well, after that introduction to Billy, I feel like Dutton Peabody in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and I feel like I should add, I also clean out the place.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Doing great. Got this wonderful Kickstarter going on, for Return to Monster Island, and can't wait to talk to everybody tonight.
Rock and roll. Well, I have one particular question that everyone is just dying to know. So let's get that out of the way. What's your best scar story?
My best scar story?
Yes. Do you have any scars? Abrasions, lesions?
Yes, I have many lumps on my head.
Yes.
My best scar story was I was riding the running board of a car, and my buddy was driving. We were going about 25.
Wait, the running board? Is it
Yeah.
like a 1932,
It was,
Ford?
It was a Carmen Ghia.
Okay.
A VW Carmen Ghia. So I had a little running board. So I'm sitting on the outside holding on to the window, and we're going to go to a movie that night. We're just screwing around, and he puts the brakes on for whatever reason. I go flying over. I land on my feet. I'm running, and I go ass over elbows, ba-boom, 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 on the asphalt. Knocked out cold.
Oh,
I woke up to the sound of people saying, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" I got up. I had pieces of asphalt in my skull. I had a torn shirt, and we still went to the movie.
there you go. What movie was it? Was it I hope it was a manly movie, like a Chuck Norris film or something.
How the hell do I know? I was knocked out. I don't even remember.
Death Wish 3. That's why you like it to this day, because you missed half the movie because you were in a couple of those things. Now, you and I had a little email exchange the other day, and you said no topics are off limits.
Right.
And that you're an open book. So if I may be so bold to ask, I've heard you've got a real 90s style. The question is, what in the name of Zeus's butthole does that even friggin' mean? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Okay. That is off limits.
That's awful. That's stupid. That's just stupid. Whoever said
It
that.
is.
That's just silly talk.
I never understand that phrase. I mean, because I never had a 90s style. My style was always a classic style. Jim Lee had a 90s style. Todd McFarlane had a 90s style. But, nobody says that about them because they're still doing the same style.
Yes. Yes.
I don't get it. But
maybe you should have had a 90s style.
maybe.
No. But seriously, Nile, let's get to some real questions why everyone's here to ask the great Graham Nolan, whom one person already said, we have one quote says, "I love Nolan's art." Another person said, one of the greatest Batman artists of all time. So,
my wife typing.
Is your wife
Is
Julia?
your wife? Yeah. She's hyping you up.
That's it. Okay. Thanks, honey.
Well, why don't we take it to the
All
grand poobah here, the king of crowdfunding comics himself, Mr. Nile Scala,
All
my
right.
partner.
So, Graham,
Fire away. Mhm.
where did your love for comics stem from?
It came from probably watching the Batman TV show because I was a little kid in the 60s, and also reruns of The Adventures of Superman. So that was my first exposure to the superheroes. And then later on, you're going to love this one, Billy. I ended up trading my entire 69 Mets baseball cards for a bunch of comics.
Oh.
And no, I didn't trade them for FF1 or Amazing Fantasy.
Yeah.
I traded it for the Rawhide Kid, Spooky, and Casper.
Oh.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my gosh. Why? No Eries, no Great
Okay,
Frizettas.
good businessmen back there. What can I tell you?
Yeah, no Al Williamson books or anything like that, or Wally Woods. No, just
No.
Wow.
no. There you go.
That's crazy.
Sorry, I apologize now. Again.
Okay. So then from there, how did you get your start in comics?
My start?
Yeah, your start in the comic book industry.
I went to the Kubert School.
Yep.
And my teacher, my sequential art teacher during my second year there was Sal Amendola. And Sal was the talent coordinator at DC at the time. And he was also editing a new book that they were just publishing called New Talent Showcase. So he bought 2 class assignments for that comic. So that was my first professional sale. Were actually 2 stories I did for him in class.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Now, so what was it like knowing Joe Kubert, going to the Kubert School? And do you have any other luminaries that went to school with you, classmates that have gone on, just like yourself, to become superstars?
Yeah, I had a pretty well represented class. See, I did 2 stints there. It was a 3-year school. So I went 1 year and I couldn't afford to go back, so I had to take a year off. Then I went back a 2nd year and ran out of money and couldn't go back, and never finished my 3rd year. So my 1st year at the Kubert School, I was in class with Adam and Andy Kubert, Ron Wagner, guys like that. And then when I came back, I was in class with Bart Sears and Lee Weeks. Actually, no, Lee. I think Lee was my first year. And Mark Pennington, people like that.
Damn, that's some damn good company, buddy.
Yeah. It was a good couple classes there.
Wow.
Nile?
Yeah, that's now with the Kubert school. When you were attending that school, how long was the school open? Like, by the time you got there?
My first year was 80, 81. Was 1982, and I believe their first year was 77.
Oh, okay.
76, something like that. It wasn't that long.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't open that long.
Have you visited the school since?
It's not the same school because originally the school was a mansion.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Like Xavier's mansion.
Yeah,
like
pretty
Xavier's
much,
mansion.
There was a carriage house where the kids stayed, but there wasn't that many kids going. But eventually, the school expanded, and Joe ended up buying like a middle school or an elementary school that was up for sale. So that's what the school is now.
So you guys all lived and studied in a mansion back in the day at the Kubert School?
Didn't live in
dorms?
the mansion.
Oh.
Didn't live in the mansion. The mansion was the school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
wow.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I think the mansion was originally owned by Harry Chesler, who was a Golden Age publisher, and I think he was also an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Chesler House. I'm gonna look at that.
Yeah, look at
Pick that.
While you're looking that up, Billy.
Yes.
So
real quick, if I may, for those of you who may know that we are also joined by one of our contributors here, Mr. J.C. Vaughn, who some people know as, and you're already famous, J.C., as the Frozen Bald Guy.
Frozen Bald Guy.
We can hopefully move on from that. We had some technical problems in our second or third episode, and but J.C. Vaughn is the vice president of Gemstone Publishing. He's also a fine creator in his own right. He's worked on a lot of she books as a writer, and we're just happy to have you. And Jeff has some questions for you as well that we'll get to afterwards, if you don't mind there, Graham. And I'm
No.
I wonder if you
Glad
guys
to have you, Jeff.
Indeed.
So.
Yes, Jeff, welcome. It's always a blast
Thank
to have
you,
Jeff
Niall.
on. Always a blast to have Jeff on. So, to get back to a question that I want to get to is, since I'm kind of talking about your past, your journeys, how'd you get into comics, how to, all this stuff. So, you are known as one of the best Batman illustrators of all time, and you were working on the series at a time for me that was very influential. Can you tell me what it was like getting the opportunity to start drawing Batman, then escalating from those stories into creating Bane, as a co-creator with Chuck Dixon? I would really love to just hear, Reader's Digest version of how that all came to be.
Batman was a character I always wanted to draw. I knew the character. I knew who I was, a historian of the character. I knew all kinds of background on him. I knew how he thought, how he moved in my mind. So when I actually got to draw him for the first time, it was like I'd been drawing him my whole life. That isn't always true for an assignment you get. Sometimes you'll get something and you're like, what is this? I had a couple of X-Men assignments to do one time, and I never read the X-Men. I didn't even like the X-Men. So I didn't know who these characters were. I didn't even know what their powers were in some cases, So it was like I had to kind of figure out how they moved and breathed and to give them life, But Batman I did. And I had gone in to see Archie and Denny and showed them my stuff. And then an opening came for a fill-in issue. It was Tech 650. and I did it, and they liked it a lot. And then they offered me a couple more issues, and I did those. And so I was starting to get into, I proved I could do it on time, I could do it good. They really liked the way I portrayed Batman. And at the same time, they were having meetings about Bane because I knew they were going to do the Nightfall storyline. And I believe Chuck, whom I had already known, we had worked together at Eclipse Comics, had suggested to Denny and Scott Peterson that I do Bane.
Awesome.
Because one of the concepts of Bane was an evil Doc Savage. And Chuck knew what a huge Doc Savage fan I was.
That is awesome.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the drawings in Vengeance of Bane without his mask, it's James Bama's Doc Savage with a shaved head and ports in his head.
Wow, hang on, I got
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty great. Niall, can I jump in here?
Yeah, jump in whenever you like. Yes.
Graham, I really liked what you just said about the first two editors you mentioned were Archie Goodwin and Denny O'Neil. Mm-hmm. And I sort of wonder, is that one of those things where it's all downhill from there? Those guys, man, yeah, cream of the crop.
Oh, yeah. I didn't work a lot with Denny because Denny was a delegator. Mm-hmm. When I was working on Detective, my editor was Scott Peterson.
Sure.
And his assistant was Darren Vincenzo. And Scott and Darren were great. They were awesome editors. I've had some good luck with editors in my early years at DC. Mike Gold was a good editor for me.
Oh, sure.
He's the first guy that just kind of let me go. He didn't micromanage or anything like that. He just said, okay, do it your way.
He seemed like
that was very freeing.
Mike seems like once he reaches a comfort level with a guy, I've heard that from more than one person, that it might take a little bit to get to that comfort level, but once you got there, he was sort of hands off.
Yeah, that was my experience with Mike, and I really appreciated that. Working in the Bat Office, there's a lot more micromanaging, obviously, because it's a flagship character, and also because at that point we were doing a lot of big crossover stuff: Nightfall, mm-hmm. Night's End, Night Quest, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of wrangling of different stuff.
Was there a moment in that where you felt like you reached a real comfort level, like, hey, I arrived? Like, the fans obviously felt that way about you, because I can tell you, because that's where I was at that point. But
no, not during those runs, not during the big crossover stuff, Nightfall, Night's End, all that kind of stuff. I never felt really comfortable yet. I started to really feel comfortable and feel like I really hit my stride around like 1998, I think, after we had gone back to doing, kind of self-contained and short stories
sure.
of Batman, that kind of stuff. By the time I did the Batman annual, when there was that ape crossover with the Gorilla Grodd, or I think it was
Gorilla Grodd,
something
right?
like that.
Groot.
Anyway, at that point, I really, really, really hit my stride.
Now,
awesome.
Jeff, do you have Jeffrey? Do you have a follow up to that? Because I have a question to ask you. It's just for those of us who make a career writing and drawing comics. When you got, like, how long? I know you've known Julia for a long time. You guys have been married. What was it like telling your wife that you wanted to draw comics? You know what I mean? Like what was that like? Because I know my experience with that. And like, well, I want to do this. And, we were young and all, like, okay, go for it. And I remember, I had my first opportunity to do a cover for Malibu. And they didn't call me for some reason. They ended up calling my Debbie's number. And she had her aunt come who lived near me in Queens. My wife lived in Hoboken. I lived in Queens at this time after college. And her aunt took a cab and said, Billy, you have to call Malibu Comics. For some reason, they called Debbie. And you're not answering your phone or something like that, but and we were excited about it. But I mean, it's a real, it's to raise a family, that you have your daughters, and you know what I mean? And to become a provider, like, what was that like going into that and jumping in, taking that risk? Or there was no other choice, like, this is what I want to do?
There wasn't any choice, and it wasn't any risk either. She was 21, I was 23. I was just getting going.
Yeah.
I was working at an ad agency and going into New York once a week every Thursday. I'd go out to the editors, show my stuff, and eventually stuff. In fact, on our first date, we met in Florida. I was visiting family and she was visiting family, but she lived in Buffalo and I lived in New Jersey at the time. So we had this little fling in Florida. She went back to New York. I went back to Jersey. And then I flew out the next weekend to go see her in Buffalo. So on that weekend, I was working on my first project for Marvel, which was the Transformers. So right from our first date, I was a working cartoonist.
Yeah,
Nice.
very
Nice.
That and
Very
the
nice.
fling and the little fling. How romantic! Look at you.
Yeah, and you know what was really cool is, you know what, when you're first starting out, you know, every dollar's being spent. You know, we didn't have any money. And I wasn't taking out 30% of my paycheck because, you know, I'm a freelancer and I needed every cent because we just started up our apartment and all that kind of stuff. Well, tax bill comes in and it's like $5,000 and I've got nothing in the bank.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that Transformers story I was working on our first day, royalty came in for like $6,000.
Oh, and she's
Holy
like,
cow.
1985. That's $1985. That was pretty good.
oh, and she's like, I just hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
Sorry, doctor. You know, she was dating like Dr. Smith at the time. Like, sorry, doctor.
Grabs
It
a
was a lot
pencil,
easier
starts
for the
sharpening them
next
all.
round,
Get to
so
work.
I
Get to
can
work.
tell you that.
That's fantastic. And now here you are. You're going full blown with your creator-owned project through Ominous Press. So, like, if let's talk Monster Island and your current Kickstarter. Maybe Frank Nile could post up the link and continually post up the link for Graham's Monster Island Kickstarter, so people could see it. If you guys wouldn't mind checking it out, if you guys could please pledge to him. He's one of the best guys. It's a fantastic story. I think he has 9 days left. Let's friggin' push him over the top. Let's hit him. He's one of the good guys. All of you who know Graham, if you guys know me, you know Graham, and he's one of the good guys.
Yes.
And like I said, he's the man that I would invade Canada with in a heartbeat. In a friggin' heartbeat.
I got you back. I got you.
But to be fair, Billy, you'd invade Canada just on a whim.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But anyway, so getting back to that, you're not the only Doc Savage fanatic.
All right.
So
There you go.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
And I
that's nice.
never thought about it. And now you look at it and it really makes sense
Yeah.
of just who he is. And
Yeah. Bane always has the widow's peak, you know.
Yeah.
He has the widow's peak, all 9 yards. Yeah.
But I never see. I have yet to see a Doc Savage film. Well, there was those ones in the '60s, right?
It's just the one movie in 1975.
Oh,
That's George
75?
Clooney. Yeah.
Okay, but did you talk like this? No, because I want to ask you questions about that as well.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
So let's get to the gist of it. Like, what is Monster Island?
Monster Island originally started 20 years ago because I was under contract with DC, and DC always sent all their artists everything they published. So I'd get these big boxes with, you know, everything in it. And I started, my daughters were young at the time, and I couldn't give them any of the comics that I read as a kid. Now, my mom, if I was sick or something like that and I wanted some comics, she could go out to 7-Eleven and pick up, you know, Superman, Batman, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. The only one that ever gave her pause was when I wanted a Conan comic, you know, and it was like Savage Sword, the black and white magazine. And she opens it up and there's like these boobs, you know, and she's like, oh, you know. That was the only one. But I couldn't do that for my girls. So I felt that the comics were getting overly violent and overly sexualized. And I still feel that way. I don't think it's changed. I think it's just gotten worse. But at that time, I decided, well, I'm going to do something that is a true all ages comic. And when I say all ages, I mean in the same way that newspaper strips were all ages. You know, where FDR used to read the comics over the radio to people, describe the pictures.
Yeah.
You know, there was a sophistication to that kind of comic that didn't dumb down to kids. Because as soon as you do that to a kid won't read it because they feel it's a kid's comic.
It's
you know?
not talking down to them.
That's the key. That's the key. And it's even going over their heads sometimes to make them wonder, you know. And so that's what I wanted to do, was to create something like that for my kids and for my friends that could read and enjoy it on a different level. The same way that, the Hayes Commission years of Hollywood,
Sure.
were movies for everybody.
So
So I created it, wrote it, published it, had it distributed through Diamond and all that kind of stuff. Timing was bad because it was right around the time of the crash. And, I had to go back to doing regular paying work. So, it stayed there. And then I got approached last year. The guys from Ominous were, Ominous is actually in North Tonawanda, which is, a half an hour, 20 minutes outside of Buffalo.
So they'll go to war with us.
That's right.
Excellent.
So Bart and Andy Smith, Ron Mars, and then Sean Husvar were all getting together, and we met up at a place down in the city, and they started talking to me about Monster Island, and they wanted to do something with it. And I'm like, this is great. This is great. I mean, I had a shot with Monster Island back in the early 2000s. Early 2000s, an agent from Creative Artists Agency got a hold of it and showed it to Steven Spielberg. And Spielberg read it, and his comment was, "This is how we should have ended Jurassic Park 3." And so he wanted to go to contract on it. And we talked with the attorneys, talked to me, and I told them what I wanted. I wanted publishing rights, all that, and everything was fine. And then I didn't hear anything, so I contacted him. So what's going on? Well, as you probably know, anytime in Hollywood there's a chair change where somebody gets ousted, everything on their desk goes with them because nobody wants to have credit given to somebody else if it becomes this, and it was started by somebody else. Unfortunately, Monster Island was the baby that went out with the bathwater. So, but we came that close. So I'm hoping that the fans will really enjoy reading the first one, and if we get the second one done, they'll enjoy that. And
we have Centurions here. We have Tucci Troopers. We have EVS's Legionnaires. We've got it. So, well, if you could help us out, what's the story of Monster Island? What's the plot?
Well, in the first one, we have these two Navy flyers, Mac and Duke, that come across this island. I always wanted to be a Navy aviator. Instead, I didn't want to be in the Air Force. I wanted to be an aviator. I thought that was cool. So anyway, that's why I made them Navy guys.
Jeff, hold your tongue, Jeff. Jeff's brother's an Air Force aviator, so. Anyway, I apologize.
Well, anyway, so they come across this island that doesn't show up on their radar screens, and they end up hitting a force field and crash landing on the island. They find out that the island is basically a there he goes. Is basically a repository for monsters, and it's run by these little aliens called the Gooch, that are like the capitalists of the universe. They run around to various planets that have problems with monsters, and for a hefty price, they remove the monsters and they contain them on Monster Island. And they go in and out of different parts of the universe on this island through this phasometric system that they have, and it's all timed. So after our guys get crash land on there, they got to get off the island in 24 hours before it phases out. But they also have to restore order on the island because a coup has taken place. And until the good guys get restored, they can't get off the island. And so there's this timing device that ratchets up the tension. So 2 years later, in their time, it's been 20 years since the original story, but 2 years later, the island shows up again. This time it's hovering over the Bering Sea.
Oh.
And the captain of the Big Stick, the Theodore Roosevelt, contacts our heroes because they had to, file a report about this, and they know this is the same thing. What else could it be? So they go to contact the Gooch. Now, of course, it's over the Bering Sea, so the Russians see it too, and they want. The Russians are now racing towards it, and so our heroes and a couple Russian pilots get stuck on the island now. And so they have to work together, but they're working at odds against each other. And something has happened to, and I don't want to say what it is because it's a nice little surprise, to the order of of things on the island, which again have to be restored so our heroes can get off. Meanwhile, the Russians are working against them because they want that tech. They want that superior alien technology to bring back and change the balance of power. So that's what's going on in Return to Monster Island. Now, when I conceived of this, I always thought of it in terms of the Planet of the Apes movies. You could watch any one of those movies, and they're self-contained, and yet they all connect together. And so somebody could read Return to Monster Island and not have read Monster Island. And my intent was to do 4 of these. There's Monster Island, Return to Monster Island, Escape from Monster Island, and Battle for Monster Island.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So
You will
those are
do
the
them.
4.
You will do them. We'll make sure you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, guys?
With
You
your
know.
help, folks.
Share it. He's one of the good guys. He's one of us. So
Yep.
do it. All
We're
right?
talking about it now. People are like, "Oh, I've backed so many projects." Hey, it's not even about just if you can't back it, just share it. Spread the word. Spread the word because you may know one person, 100 people that will back it, and you know what? You're still doing your part in supporting all these great artists and all these great projects.
I just posted a minute ago, echoing somebody else, that look, we all have been in a spot where we didn't have the money to pledge something at that time, but share it around, man. Every bit helps. Every eyeball we see is one more person we have a chance to persuade to join us in this. I'll tell you, I was on board the minute you said Planet of the Apes. So
Yeah.
Right?
But I love it's very
that same age group,
Yeah, but I love it. It's very
Ageless.
almost very
Ageless.
very the Lost World, very that part.
Yep.
I just see the the adventure like the world's most dangerous game. You know what I mean? Or the scene in King Kong when all the guy, you know what I mean? And just this island with all the swamps and with the Spanish moss hanging and all that stuff and I just love the visuals. I just love the visuals, and I mean you're a proven superstar. I mean everything you've done has been critically acclaimed. And well, I got a question to ask you now. Do you have a favorite movie monster?
If it's a giant monster, it's Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
If it's a universal monster, it's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
Or Frankenstein, because Dr. Frankenstein, Victor was the monster, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
The monster wasn't just like the creature from the Black Lagoon, my favorite.
Right.
He's not the monster. Richard Carlson and
Richard Denning.
Richard Denning, I apologize. Yes, Richard Denning and Carlson.
He was the bad guy.
Yes, and of course Julia Adams, who is my favorite movie leading lady, more so than Evelyn Ankers, who was in The Wolfman.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite monster leading lady in any of those great Universal films or the Hammer films or anything? Can you pick anyone? Remember Julia Adams with her eyebrows?
Oh yeah,
and that white bathing suit. Oh my God, yes. So that's why I love girls. I've always loved girls with eyebrows, from Brooke Shields to Jennifer Connelly to my wife. I'm like, oh my God, you have great eyebrows.
Did that line ever work for you?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have great eyebrows.
Absolutely.
Actually, that's in now. All the
Well,
girls
in
are doing
80s,
thick eyebrows.
We're kind of the same age. Back in the 80s, a lot of girls really, really shaped remember they plucked their eyebrows to the point of it being obnoxious. I'm like, no, let them grow. I remember telling Debbie, like, grow them out, grow your eyebrows out, and she did. And that's when I'm like, okay, I think I'm sticking around because I think her boyfriend at the time liked her to do that, and he liked her hair short. I'm like, grow your hair and grow your eyebrows, and she did. So I'm like, all right, I won this one. Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
All right,
No, I don't have a favorite monster leading lady. I can't really say.
But Frankenstein's monster is your favorite monster.
Yeah.
Favorite Frankenstein film?
The first one.
Yes, indeed.
First
Really,
Star
more
Wars.
so than Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, Bride of Frankenstein is uneven, which bothers me, and I find the music a bit bombastic as well.
Okay.
But the original one,
you've given some thought to this.
I've watched them a million times.
I have too. I mean, whatever happened to Dr. Pretorius built those, he recreated all those delightful little people, and then he died and left them all in the jars. Did they just starve to death in the jars because they couldn't get out? That's so sad.
That's one of those crazy plot points where it's like, okay, this guy has the ability to create real life, not monsters.
Yeah.
They just happen to be small.
Yeah.
But they're men and women. They have personalities. They have intelligence, all that kind of stuff. I mean, what's the point? What's he need
They were in love.
He just took a cadaver and made the guy,
Yeah, when he could have created a whole Lilliputian army and defeated the Nazis a few years later. I mean, how great would it have been when the when the whole thing shook and exploded, all of a sudden you just saw the jars empty and you just saw a few of them holding hands running off into the
would have been cool.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. That would have been like the puppet people.
Yes, and then you saw a house cat following, like, oh boy, they're by the house cat. No, but how cool would that be? Because, like, remember they made this big deal about those little people, and I don't know if you guys, we have a lot of viewers that are young, have no idea what we're talking about. But I love The Bride of Frankenstein, but I find it uneven as well. Music never bothered me, but I always wondered, what about those poor people? What happened to them? One chick was
plus, the thing is that I think I saw the Flash Gordon serials before I saw Bride of Frankenstein, and they used all of the Bride of Frankenstein's music in the Flash Gordon serials. So now when I hear this music in the Bride of Frankenstein, all I can think of is Ming the Merciless and Flash Gordon doing stuff, instead of Dr. Pretorius and the other guys.
So we got a question here from from Mitchell Coleman. What's your favorite Godzilla film, Mr. Nolan?
Oh, well done, Mr. Coleman.
Well, the first one, obviously, for the seriousness of it and its historic input. Ghidorah is an amazing film, and it's neat to see Godzilla King of the Monsters. But when you see the Japanese version, you can see where they cut stuff and put things in different order to tell a different narrative than what the original Japanese version was, and that's an excellent one. Then after you get into the franchise, I would have to say, and this was also a big influence on Monster Island, was Destroy All Monsters.
Yes, Destroy All Monsters, absolutely.
Yeah. That had everybody.
Billy, what's your favorite Godzilla?
Oh, I gotta say the same. The Raymond Burr one. I know I know that, like you said, it's different than the Japanese version. But I like the Raymond Burr one because it just I remember watching it, and what we used to have in New York on Long Island, where I grew up in Graham, they used to have the 4:30 movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the 4:30 movies were on Channel 11 at 4:30 after school. And then Saturdays they would have like Saturday afternoon films.
Yeah.
And they'd have Godzilla marathons.
Yeah.
And I this is before VCRs, and I have a tape recorder, and I would take my tape recorder and put it next to the TV, and I would record the movie on my tape recorder, so I can still recite lines to these movies. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, and even like you talk about those great monster films, and they had then Gamera and stuff like that, but there's nothing like Godzilla facing off against Ghidorah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Nile, what about you?
I actually definitely loved the first Godzilla movie, the Japanese dubbed, and that was the one that that's the one I first saw. I was exposed to it, and it stays with me. Just like with King Kong, it's the same thing. I know it's not Godzilla, but just that first original movie. They always stuck with me, all the originals.
Well,
Billy, it's funny you talked about the Saturday morning, monster shows and stuff. Well, one time they had the Godzilla double feature. They're showing Godzilla and Godzilla's Revenge.
Okay.
Double feature. And we lived in Long Beach, and we lived in the west end of Long Beach, and my grandparents lived in the east end. And so we were going to go down to the other end of town and spend the day with them.
Very bougie, by the way.
We're like, Mom, Dad, we can't go. We got to watch this Godzilla thing as well. Why don't you ask Pop-Pops and see if he'll let you watch it? We're like, okay. Now, my grandfather fought in France in World War I.
That's the first time I've ever heard this. I got to be honest with you.
He fought in France in World War I. He was a police chief. And now he is retired, and he used to sit. He had his little throne there in front of the TV and his Barco lounger and stuff. And we go over there and we say, Pop-Pops, can we watch this movie? Can we watch this, this double feature? And he loved us. He's like, oh yeah, sure. Well, he proceeded to talk through both of these movies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus, this is terrible. Oh, look, that's a guy in a suit. Oh, come
no.
on. Look at this. Yeah, and my brother and I like, we're trying to get into the whole feel of the thing, and he's ragging on it, It was funny. But you know what? He let us watch it because he loved us, and it's a sweet memory.
Well, that said, the greatest guy in suits horror film of all time, I have to say, is War of the Gargantuas.
Oh,
The brown one and the green one.
yeah.
And the green one was the good guy, and he was small, and the brown one was the big one, and he was bad. And I don't know if Frank, our engineer, could pull up a graphic to War of the Gargantuas. I didn't know we were going to go in this direction.
Can you pull up a graphic of the War of Gargantuans?
That's what we have to start doing with Crowdfunding Comics, is to start being able to pull up these things. With our first employee, we have an employee now, Frank Custer, not to be confused with General Custer. But he's Custer with a K, and we have to talk to him about that because it kind of sucks, because I think it'd be kind of cool to be Custer with a C instead of a K. But
maybe not.
Maybe not. All right, so maybe But remember the Destroy All Monsters, the commercial that was on Channel 11? And there was that scene, was it Godzilla just crashing through the sides of the buildings? It was a profile shot. You just saw these buildings, and all of a sudden you just saw him come ripping through it. And all the smoke and debris. And come on, what's the greatest? I don't care if you're Gary Cooper or if you're Errol Flynn or you're Bogart. I think the funnest job in movie history has to be Godzilla and just smash through all those toy sets and everything.
I think that unquestionably you're correct. Now I've got one for you. Let's start with Graham. Raymond Burr's character. What was his character name?
Yes, Steve Martin, that wild and crazy guy.
That is correct. Absolutely, right out of the chute. The great line. Godzilla is in Tokyo. I must tell Steve Martin.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I guess maybe we should get back to the
probably.
We're coming on 42 minutes already. Nile, well, we already went through what he has further plans. Nile and I were talking for Monster Island. It's going to be 4 issues, all told. It's going to be an epic. It's going to be the Destroy All Monsters of comics.
Story. You know what? Let me just correct something. It's incorrect to say that it's 4 issues. These are 4 graphic novels. Each one is a hardcover.
Wow.
64 pages.
Oh, wow.
Of story. And 96 pages all told, with all the other goodies in it.
And how much are they? How much are the books on the Kickstarter?
I think they're $30, $29.95.
Hey, we could pull the Kickstarter up.
Yeah, could we? Oh, that'd
be great.
Oh, Rip from West Side Story is in War of the Gargantuas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Russ Tamblyn.
Yeah, we put up the trailer while you guys were talking.
Amber Tamblin's dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
That girl's beautiful too. She looks like Tomoe. Look at that Scar crashing through like sets, bridges. I love it.
I think Billy's found his true calling.
God, I love monsters. See all my monsters there?
I'm talking about being the guy stepping on all the buildings and stuff.
Just smashing.
They tell me I'm too short. Oh, so here's a funny story. Well, I don't know if I can tell this story.
You can't.
I can't. Okay.
So,
Graham.
Yeah, it was the 80s. I don't know. All right, I'll tell it. What the hell? My buddy, what the hell? So my buddy Hawk, one of my best friends, is Hawk Kim, and he's from Korea. Well, he's from Philadelphia. I'm sure his grandparents or his parents are from Philadelphia. But what Hawk would do is that we'd be sitting there at lunch, and this is how politically incorrect the 80s were. And even at FIT, where I went to school, the Fashion Institute of Technology, we would just walk by and someone would say, Hawk! And he'd point, and he would just point like this, and he'd go like this. He'd go, and somebody would say, "Oh, Godzilla, run!" Like this.
Great.
And he loved it. It was so much fun. Everyone loved it. But you can't do that today.
No, you can't.
Oh, Godzilla, run! But that was some of the stupid shit we used to do. I'm sorry. It's funny. You bring Monster Island's bringing me back down to All right. So, Graham,
Hey, if it takes you back and makes you feel like a kid again, then I did my job.
yeah, and that's what you want your book to be about. And I hope we don't offend anyone out there in YouTube land.
Yeah.
I apologize if we do, but no, I really don't apologize.
Oh, they're definitely pushing for you to do a Doc Savage comic, though, Graham.
Oh,
Getting a lot of lot
yeah.
of questions there. If you could do that, and also, well, actually, I'm going to save this question for when we get more on the topic of crowdfunding.
Oh, okay, because I think it might be we're getting some really good questions, Graham,
Yeah,
and some really great suggestions from the fans from the people out there.
and you got people posting that they've backed your project.
Oh, that's good to hear.
So
Right.
hopefully,
Let's
And
can we get into some of the Kickstarter questions? I'd like to go there.
Yes, please. I just want to check on my kids because they're supposed to be in bed right now. So let me just check. Give me a second.
You do that, I'll ask a question.
you
then.
can't do that live.
Nile, you ask a question.
Thank you. All right, so Graham, now,
Yeah.
where do you think the industry is headed, and what do you think of the crowdfunding process? You have now done a successful Kickstarter. You are now on your second Kickstarter. Is this a direction you like, a direction you think that you're going to go in? Do you think that others are going to follow, that maybe and I've asked a few guys this, everyone has interesting opinions. Do you think that with all the success that you guys are starting to have with these Kickstarters and crowdfunding projects, that the other larger publishers are going to be coming in, let's say the big two or the big three? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, sort of a multifaceted question. The state of the industry right now, and when we say the industry, we're talking about the big two, really. And we're talking about Marvel and DC. It's really important for them to be healthy for our retailers and for the entire business model as it is.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be healthy, and
Yes.
they're not. Right now, they're sucking wind and they're crowing about sales that Charlton Comics would have canceled, 100,000 issues earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They're lucky if they're pulling in 40,000 on average, 50,000 copies on any given book. So from that aspect, I think that the industry is hurting.
Mm-hmm.
From an artistic standpoint, from a creative standpoint, it couldn't be better because the opportunities are here now for anybody to get their product out there. When I first broke into the industry, if you really wanted to call yourself a professional, you had to have the blessing of Marvel and DC Comics. You had to be working for them. I had the good fortune of actually breaking in at a time when there was a lot of small press publishers, First Comics, Kamiko, of course, Eclipse, where I did a lot of work for.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a stepping stone for me to get into the bigs, if you will. But you don't have that anymore. You don't need that anymore. You don't need their permission. It's fun to work in their sandbox with these characters you grew up loving and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is that your value to them is only whatever they perceive you to be. And at some point, they will kick you aside and you won't have value to them. And if you haven't established yourself and haven't gotten yourself set up for the future, either financially or with your career, you're going to be in trouble. So what I would tell young people that are trying to break into business today is that don't put all your eggs in their basket. Use it, do good work for them, and enjoy your time there, but be thinking about creating new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't offer an opportunity to really create, except for those special few people that get that opportunity to create for Marvel and DC, but they own everything.
Yeah.
When you create now, you have the opportunity to get your product out directly to your fans. And that's the greatest freedom that's out there right now for creators. The other aspect of the question was, do I feel like the big publishers will get involved in this kind of thing? Well, I think it's sort of antithetical to what crowdfunding is, because the advantage of it is the ability for the fans to reach the creator directly. If Marvel and DC are doing it, again, it's a big corporate thing. And who wants to support a book for a multinational company? who wants to get on board and say, I'm going to crowdfund and support this latest issue of Batman Annual for this multinational corporation who have more money than God? I just don't see that happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems a lot of them. I'm sorry. It seems a lot.
Go ahead, Billy.
No, it just seems a lot of them. These big, these publicly traded corporations use their comic book divisions not to make money. It's not Stan running it anymore, and his cousins being the accountants. It's a tax write-off for them. So they don't care if the books do well. They really don't. So that's why they're giving fans. Well, now I shouldn't be bashing them, but they seem more. They seem more interested in making statements. You know what I mean? Than telling good stories.
Oh, I agree entirely.
And everyone seems to be talking about it. I mean, they really are. Everyone's saying the same thing.
20 pages of people standing around.
Yeah, exactly. I think Bo Smith wrote an article, I think last year, where he took about 10 or 15 top title comics, and or just not, maybe more some Marvel books and stuff, and then you got some greats. You got like Donny Cates. You got Tom King. You've got Scott Snyder. Some of these guys are really hammering it away. But then you get a lot of the other ones, and of the 20 pages, I think Bo had something like 14 of them were sitting around. 2 of them were them standing and talking, or walking and talking, and then another 2 pages of action. 2-3 pages, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And he literally
what's the action? Them using a water pick?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
As much as I think we could go down this rabbit hole of what's wrong with current comics, the exciting thing to me is that we're talking about what's right with them. And it's this being able to respond to the fans directly and create things that we envision and that maybe could not find a home for. So I don't want to be a Pollyanna about it, but I really do choose to see the positive in this. I see the problems too. I'm not blind to them, but I'm much more interested in what we can do with the opportunities. Given that you had the success with the first Monster Island, and I believe you're on the way to the success with the second one, did you have any standout problems with it the first time that you're trying to correct the second time? Was there one, for instance, that we would say was the bane of your existence?
In terms of what?
Just like was shipping. Was there something you didn't anticipate correctly? Because I know from my first one there definitely was, and there's already been from my second one, and I'm not done yet.
When it ended, fulfillment came around the holidays, so that was a little bit of a glitch. And the fact that the 20th anniversary book was 11 by 17, the printer couldn't handle the binding, so the bindery had to go out separately, and that added more time.
Sure, that's probably like what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was longer than that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was longer than that. But when it came back, I mean, the freaking thing is amazing. I mean, look at that.
When you
11 by 17.
Oh,
this thing is gorgeous.
When the fans started getting that one, and you started hearing their reactions, what kind of stuff did you hear in terms of meeting and surpassing their expectations?
Well, one of the great things that Ominous does with their fulfillment is packaging. When they got their fulfillment, they got this book beautifully packaged in a white box with this giant Monster Island sticker on top of the package.
Oh, nice.
Which looked really, really nice. And then when you open it up, inside is a letter thanking them for their contribution, and then there was some cards for upcoming Kickstarters, including Return to Monster Island. It was, and then the actual product itself, the fans just loved it, because it's part graphic novel, but it's really an art book. It's the 20th anniversary, so everything was shot from the original artwork, like the IDW artist editions. So I think we surpassed everybody's expectations for it.
It's beautiful. Nile, wasn't I with you when you got yours and you opened it? Did you open yours live or something on your show?
Yeah, we did it live. You and I did it.
Okay, so
We were
yeah,
testing out. That's when we were in the process of the
yes,
development of the show, and I was like, hey, I'm going to set up
that's
some
right.
cameras and see what we can do. And of course, I set up, if you guys have seen, we used to have a show that we used to do, and it was like a podcasting comic book talk show auction thing. But anywho, so we had it set up and the camera failed on us, so we just just held it up. But we unboxed my Monster Island, and the quality of everything in there, like it's amazing. The book itself, I mean, I read it, but just very daintily. I didn't want to I wanted everything to stay nice and perfect. And now it's actually displayed in my studio. So yeah, I mean, I can attest to everything he said about the quality of the previous Kickstarter. I mean, it was a phenomenal package that came to my house, and it was so cool to just see that white box with the sticker on it. I ran to my door like a little kid and rushed into my office. So I can only see what's
stickers. They're really
yeah.
cool.
I can't wait for this next one.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
if our engineer Frank could post a link, continually post the link to Graham's new Kickstarter, because we got to make this next book happen. We've got to do the same one.
Yes.
And I'm going to introduce you some people, because there are centurions and legionnaires out there, Graham, that helped me tremendously with our Indiegogo. We launched our Indiegogo after our Kickstarter campaign, and we made just as much money on our Indiegogo than we made in 3 days than we made in our Kickstarter in 2 weeks. And this was after all the big original art was sold and stuff. So you're one of the good guys. And guys out there, Graham is not only one of the most popular creators out there, but he gets it. And he's all about the art. He's all about telling great stories. He's a passionate creator. He's a true advocate and ambassador for creator rights. So if you guys could please, give it a look. And also out there, if you guys don't mind, like our page, please. Like the show. We keep forgetting to ask people that.
Yeah.
Like it, and what's the bell? Hit the bell for notifications.
Hit the bell for notifications. But yeah, again, I just want to reiterate, that Nolan's one of the good guys. He's here. He's all about the books, and he's doing what we want to see done. And if the Kickstarter's a success, then there's a lot of comments out there of, is this going to come to Indiegogo? I'd like to see it on Indiegogo. I will support this twice if you put it on Indiegogo. So I mean, if you make it successful in one avenue for him, then he'll bring it to another set of masses. I mean,
Yeah, because Graham,
let's see what we can do.
Yeah, Graham, we had for the Zombie Sama book, our first crowdfunded book, we did it on Kickstarter, and in 30 days we had 440 pledges, partners. On Indiegogo in a week or so, because it's only a 2-week campaign, we have 577 backers. So it's grown, because there are people that will only will only pledge to Kickstarter, and there are people that will only pledge to Indiegogo. So the world needs more Monster Island. Everyone should get that book. So if I can give
it's a fun book.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Go for it twice. Talk to your partners, stuff like that. And once this campaign is done, go to the next one and do it, because you'll be pleasantly surprised, because it's almost like a family Indiegogo. It's really it's wonderful, and they're very engaged. And I mean, we've been having these fun chats on our this is our 6th show, and it's really great. We're getting to know all the people that are part of it and stuff. And then what's cool is that we'll have our live show, and that's okay. But then people go back and watch it, which is kind of cool. So, have you considered that? Would you consider that option to go? Because Kickstarter's completely fine with it.
Yeah, I don't say no to anything. I'm open-minded. Ominous is handling that end of things for me, which allows me the opportunity to create. And so whatever they feel is best, I'm fine with.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So you want to have some, yeah.
And so the mob seat says comics are like record albums with people wanting a physical product. And I've got 3 guys here with me tonight, both who've delivered, all 3 have delivered wonderful Kickstarters. And the products, I mean, yeah, you want a physical product? I mean, back these guys' projects and some of these others, because I mean you're getting an awesome physical product, and it feels personal. So thank you for saying that. The mob seat, I'm 100% with you on that one. And now we can continue.
Okay. So
Well,
should we lighten things up and get away from business for a little bit and
Yeah.
learn a little more about Graham Nolan?
I have a question I've been dying to ask him.
Sure.
Okay.
Jay.
Is it true that when you eat tacos, nothing falls out?
Everything falls out.
So that's not you then.
That is not me. I don't know who's telling those lies. No,
I think it was Chuck Dixon.
Chuck
it probably was Chuck.
Should get Chuck on. We have to get Chuck on.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
For sure, with Airborne especially.
Oh,
Chuck,
yeah.
Chuck is booked to come on, isn't he? Chuck
He is booked.
18th of April.
Oh,
or
awesome.
something?
Frank, where
Yeah,
do we have Chuck booked at?
I did a cover for one of the covers for that Airboy book.
Oh, that's
What's that?
great.
Excellent.
Yeah, we haven't booked for the 18th. And
The
then we
18th
have
of
we haven't
April.
booked for the 18th, and then if for any instance the 18th doesn't work, we also have a slot for him on the 22nd. So the 18th or the 22nd, we'll have Chuck Dixon on.
I think his campaign ends on the 21st, though.
Yeah, he just gave us 2 dates.
check.
So
Yeah,
right now
so
he's booked
it-
for the 18th, and if he's got something else going on, then the 22nd could be the date.
And you want a smart guy. That's no BS. You know what I mean? And Chuck, I also think, if I may talk about Chuck, I think Chuck wrote one of the most moving comics I've ever read in my life. And Old Bean, maybe you could help me with this. It's the Nightwing story when Dick Grayson takes Barbara Gordon out on a date.
My gosh, that's a great story, but I don't know what it's called.
Oh, and I don't know, Graham. It was illustrated by Greg Land, and she just wants to fly again or something, and he takes
Oh,
her
I know
up
the
on a
one.
trapeze, and he
Yeah,
straps her, and it's beautiful story. It's a one shot, one and done,
Mhm.
and with all the things that Barbara's going through, being paralyzed and all this, and it's a beautiful story. It's I think it's one of the best comic books of all time. I really do. Story wise, everything, single issues. Why it didn't win an Eisner, I have no idea. But
Well,
Hey,
Chuck
that-
is one of
that-
Chuck is one of the inspirations, one of my writing inspirations. That's for sure. Having
That-
worked with him for 35 years, I've picked up a lot just working with him. He's amazing.
That brings up a really great question. What do you have a favorite single issue comic story that you've read as a fan?
Hmm. It's hard to say. There's quite a few. The first one that jumps out to me is the Lee Kirby Ragnarok story with Mangog.
Oh yeah.
I loved that story when I first read that. It had an import to it that I'd never seen in a comic, because it went longer than the 3 issues of the Galactus trilogy. So that was a big one too. But the Mangog one seemed to have more on the line. This is this character with the power of a billion beings that were trapped there by Odin. And he gets released by Ulik the Troll, and now he's on this march to Asgard, and nothing can stop him. He's like a juggernaut, It comes down to that last scene where, he's knocked everybody aside, and Thor is holding on to him, and he's banging him with his hammer, and the recorder is in the background, and cosmic shit is going by, and the recorder is recording the end of the universe and all that kind of stuff, and then Odin wakes up from the Odin sleep and dispatches him,
But isn't that the greatest? I mean, look at that. The story. I remember Mark Texera telling this the Gwen Stacy story when he was a kid, experiencing that for the first time, and how his whole world was. Because I'm like, what got you into comics? And this has got to be 25 years ago. I think this June we were coming back from the Diamond thing when the friggin' Rangers won the Stanley Cup. I
Dark
remember
days indeed.
Yes, dark days indeed. And we took a wrong turn, and we ended up going from living in New York, taking 95, and there's a split when you go, when you're going north from 95, when you're in the Baltimore area, And you can stay on 95 and go towards Philadelphia, or you can get on the New Jersey Turnpike and go back where we live. Well, we stayed on 95 because we were just so engrossed in these stories, and Texera just recanting his childhood, and he's like, "Oh my God!" And Gwen Stacy dies, and Harry. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'm like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Nile, what about you, Nile? Same question.
Sorry, I was reading through comments.
The question is, was there a single comic story that just really grabbed you?
A single comic story that just grabbed me.
Okay, think for a
I
second.
don't
Well,
really,
and I'll tell you.
I don't really have a single comic story.
Okay.
He's young. They
No.
don't have single comic stories.
Yeah, because
he's young. He's only 34.
Yeah, I'm not a boomer. I'm not a boomer.
Keep saying that. It might be true someday. Okay, I'm just gonna throw mine out there, and it's the one-shot collection of all the Manhunter stories by Archie Goodwin and Walter Simonson. It is
awesome.
it's just as just a little one-shot, man. It's more than 32 pages, but it's not a lot more. Mm-hmm. And it is just so freaking good. I tend to buy that every time I come across it.
The first detective comics I ever bought was one of those 60-cent giants.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Detective 441. It was a classic Jim Aparo cover with the judge pouring molten steel down off this wall with his and he's got his gavel hammering down. He's declaring Batman guilty.
Check it.
And the metal is falling towards him, and Batman's like, "Oh, just awesome cover." But the Manhunter was in there as the backstory there, And it was so cool that at some point later on, I got to meet Archie and of course Walt.
You've mentioned Jim Aparo there, and I think what's cool is that for many people, you're their Batman artist. Who was your Batman artist?
I loved Jim Aparo, and I loved Dick Sprang.
Oh yeah, very different styles, but I get that.
Yeah, I mean, because in that issue, that Detective Comics issue, was other Batman stories, and there was Dick Sprang stories in there. And one year at San Diego in 1994, I think it was 3 or 4, at the height of Nightfall, I was sitting at the DC table, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting right next to Jim Aparo. Okay, and this is the guy who did the cover of my first Detective Comics, right?
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and we're signing stuff. There's a line all the way out there, and this tall, leathery gentleman with this gray beard comes behind us, and Jim turns around and he goes, "Oh, Dick!" And he says, "Graham, I want you to meet Dick Sprang."
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit. At the time, Dick was probably 88 years old, and he had a grip on him like a freaking vice. I mean, this is a guy who lived in Arizona as a cowboy and all this kind of stuff, and his hand was like a vice. And he was such a nice guy. And about a year later, we got to work together. I wish I could show it to you because I'm staring right at it right now. Dick penciled this Bane pinup for some Batman pinup book. I did the layout for. Dick did the pencils, and then the pencils came back to me for me to ink.
Oh, wow.
And when those pencils came, I opened up that FedEx box, and I took these pencils out, and I'm like, oh, my God. These are Dick Sprang pencils, and they were every bit as tight as they were in 1945. He hadn't lost a step at all. It was unfriggin' believable. And there's Bane in Dick Sprang style, first time he'd ever drawn. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to ink this. And I'm like, oh. So it's sort of like a German expressionist type thing. You've got Batman and Robin small, and this giant figure of Bane, looming over them, and around them are skulls and bones.
Oh, I know that
dead.
piece.
Yeah, you know that piece? Okay. So instead of jumping into it, I just decided I was going to take the little skulls all the way in the background and start inking those first, just so that I could get relaxed enough before I could tackle the other stuff. So I finished it, sent it off and everything. I got a lovely letter from Dick just extolling the inking technique that I used and all that kind of stuff. And I had told him about how I had copied his work, and he says, and now I've got to copy yours because I did the layout. And it was like
nice.
it was just this great thing, And
what did that run in?
What's that?
What did that run in?
You know, that period was all a blur. They were publishing so much stuff. It was like a pinup thing or something. I can't remember. Maybe somebody, a fan out there, can figure it out and type it in.
That would be great. The great thing about what you're talking about is, how we've got these people that inspired us, and that they're the fuel in our tank in one way, and then we get to carry that on. And like I said, I know for a fact that you're many people's Batman artist, and just like Kelly Jones is, or Naram Brayfogle. And I can't. The thing you said that geeked me out is just sitting next to a Paro. If I could draw, I couldn't have even imagined that.
Yeah, we have Frank looking. We have Frank looking for it.
Yeah. Hey, Nile, can you grab it off the wall and show people? Is it nailed to the wall? Can you get the original art?
Me?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, Graham. I'm looking at
Oh,
Nile.
I was like, me. I don't.
Yeah, no, Graham,
what
you
art
have the art? Is it possible you get to, or is it going to you have to unplug and everything like that? And...
No. Hold on a sec.
All right, here we go.
I think that kind of stuff, like Billy, like when you were doing Sergeant Rock and you did the bit in Kubert style.
Oh yeah.
And the other in the Page and Russ Heath style.
Yeah.
To me, that meant so much to me because I knew because on a personal level, I knew what those guys meant to you.
Yeah. Heath did all the Haunted Tank stuff, and Joe's was the rocks. Wow, look at that.
Oh,
So
wow.
can you explain the various images?
Gotta get this back in so I can hear. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Can you explain the various images?
Okay.
Look at that. Holy crap.
Wow, that's cool.
Can we give it a full screen?
Hey, Frank,
Mr.
I'm going to
Engineer?
take over so I can do the full screen. Yeah, I'm going to bring this up. Keep talking.
Okay. So here was my, this is the pencils that Dick had done. This is Xerox of them, obviously. Here's the actual artwork that I had inked. And I had put like these clouds and stuff in the background to kind of push the figure forward a little bit more, and he really liked that. And then there's a letter down here.
Wow, so you had the letter.
Yeah, from him.
That is amazing.
Priceless, right, bro?
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, it's
so cool.
It's one of the coolest things that I own.
It's nothing better than original art.
Yeah. All right, well, Graham, we've been doing this for over an hour, so maybe we can lighten things up a little bit. And Niall, do you mind if I ask you a question that we talked about?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
All right. Graham, you've finished all your deadlines. You've had yet another successful Kickstarter campaign. You have nothing to work on. Plus, you don't want to work on anything comic related. You could do whatever you want, but it can't involve comics. What are your weekend plans?
I'm going fishing.
There you go.
I'm going fishing.
With a cigar?
Yes.
Now, someone had mentioned that they have Cuban cigars in Canada, and I wanted to tell them that that's the very reason why we'd invade them. There you go. You got to see. Now I got hang on. I got to show you something, Graham.
Hey, you know what this is called? Remember in South Carolina we had the Gurkhas?
Yes.
All right, this is a Gurkha beast.
Oh,
Called a beast.
a beast. Oh, here, look what I got.
What is that?
My Cohiba
Cohiba?
it's a Robusto
Oh yeah, nice.
by Cohiba.
Hey, gentlemen,
Yeah.
we got the answer. It's Batman Chronicles Gallery #1. A couple people chimed in with that.
That's it. Yep.
Like now, did we speak? Okay, Graham, are there any other publishers you'd want to work with to create, let's say, a Monster Island crossover with, or any other characters? Godzilla, Monster Island crossover, Universal like what would be your dream after you don't your 4 graphic novels, and let's do one more. What the craziest thing?
I have other ideas, other projects. I think that after I got the 4 done, that I would move on to other things that I want to create.
Mm-hmm.
Like Cher versus Godzilla.
It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any other projects going on that you're working on? I mean, you don't have to tell us what they are, but do you have any other original stories and characters?
I do. I have a couple more ideas that I'm talking to Ominous about doing, and then I also have a project that I'm doing with Aftershock. That I'm just writing.
Nice.
Brett Blevins is the artist on it.
Oh,
It's
cool.
called
Excellent.
the Girls of Dimension 13.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's my cross between Doctor Strange meets Alex Kotsky's Girls of Apartment 3G.
That is awesome. If you ever need to send anyone some
Look at
samples
Jeff,
to
man.
check
He
out.
gets
That's great.
Willow fights, maybe.
it. In another dimension. Yeah.
LB.
So that one's gonna be that's gonna be a fun project, and Brett is working on that right now.
Now,
I gotta say that the idea of Brett working on a project like that with you just sounds great. I think talk about somebody who's underutilized in comics right now.
Yeah, he's a perfect fit for this because I needed somebody that could do that wild and crazy Ditko type of universe type stuff, but also I needed somebody that could do like Bob Oxner cute girls.
And not only cute, but not unrealistic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I say cute, I mean that to me that means realistic. You know, not the overly, idealized, overly sexualized female versions. But with the wasp waist and the image kind of girls.
Yeah,
like Romita girls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ramita and
yeah.
Oxner and even Dan DiCarlo and used to, really cute stuff. Stan Drake.
Wow.
Kotsky too, of course, and Leonard Starr. All those guys that could really
that's
draw.
just a litany of great artists right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Now, Old Bean, you did ask about the mistakes, right? You asked about.
I did.
Okay, because I remember I missed it. My son is 6, so.
I have a controversial question to ask.
Oh.
You cannot ask it.
I hope I give you a controversial answer.
Well, it's more of a choice.
There's no controversial questions, just controversial people.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Correct.
Well, yeah, yeah.
The original Star Trek.
Star Trek is. Oh yeah, but Star Trek has always stayed pure. I think.
I think so.
That's a bunch of baloney.
Oh come on.
Okay, really.
What kind of baloney?
Spock's
Wunderbar
brain
baloney?
is pure.
How dare you?
Okay, a third of the episodes.
You
of
are not
Star-
bored.
A third of the originals episodes of the original series. Which, by the way, I freaking love the original series.
Yeah.
I love We Come in Peace, Shoot to Kill. Come on, what's not to love about that?
Right.
But seriously, a third of those episodes are crap.
Yeah. Well, the whole third season practically crap.
And with a momentary gem or two.
Yeah.
I think you can say that.
4 good episodes in the third season.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
a good number. On the other hand,
But they're still better than the latest Star Wars. The newest
but
regurgitation that they're putting out
in
Star
all
Wars.
seriousness, I'm a writer because of the first Star Wars.
Well, that's the first Star Wars. Now it's Star Horrors. It seems.
Oh yeah, okay. I think you're thinking like a fan and not a business person.
You're right.
Because it is show business. It is not show art.
Yeah, but they're not really doing such great business, are they? Though, right?
Yeah,
This
you're
is a little
right.
bit
They're only making $400 and $500 million.
right,
That's all.
as opposed to
That's
700 million, I guess. Well, that's a lot of
those
money.
side movies did underperform.
They did.
Solo.
Yeah.
Rogue One.
But Rogue One is probably the third best Star Wars movie.
I hate it.
I heard.
I
I
walked out of it.
gotta be.
I almost walked
perfectly
out of
honest. I haven't seen any of them.
It
I
was
saw-
so un-Star Wars to me.
To me, so you know what though? Maybe I'm just different, but I look at these movies. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is bad. That's bad. This is bad." I just go into the movie, like just going in for the movie. I never get that deep. Like, oh, it's something. This isn't Star Wars. That's not Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, it's Star Wars. That wasn't bad.
Niall,
Yeah, see,
that's totally acceptable for a young shallow person like you.
Yeah. yes. You didn't see it in the theater. No,
I bootlegged
You even
it.
know what theaters are.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
Everything's digital, man. I watched it on my phone.
I have not seen any Star Wars film twice since Episode 6. I've not seen 1, 2, 3 twice. I went to see them in the theater, and then I saw 7, and I've not seen any of them since. And I haven't seen the other ones after because I'm like, this is crap.
Well, I'll tell you what. When you watch the prequels, when you first watch the prequels, everybody was like, geez, Lucas has lost it. But now, after they've had a couple Star Wars movies come out outside of Lucas's purview, you realize how good those were. Because they still felt like Star Wars, and he tried to give you something different in every one of those prequel movies. That he never tried to repeat himself, but he tried to stay true to the feeling and the flavor of the story of Star Wars. The new ones are rehash. You've seen it. The plots are the same.
That is true. That's very true.
And why in the hell would there be X-Wing fighters 20 years after the X-Wing was phased out?
Oh, you with the X-Wing fighters again.
Look how long the F-15's been around.
Why don't we just do a whole episode about that and get this subject done?
Maybe we should have an episode.
Well, you know what?
Why not we have the new P-51s are coming out. Here's
a funny little conundrum.
Sorry.
Here's a conundrum that I ran into in Return to Monster Island. When I did it 20 years ago, the Navy Interceptor was the F-15 Tomcat.
No, it was 18. F-18.
No,
F-14.
F-14 Tomcat.
F-14. 18's the Hornet.
Now it's the F-18 Hornet. The Tomcat was a 2-seater.
Yes.
The Hornet is a 1-seater.
But I
had to get my characters.
No, there are Hornets with 2-seaters.
There are, but they're not interceptors. They're growlers.
Yeah.
They're radar jamming planes, and so I had to get my characters up in a growler so that I could have the two of them on the same plane so they could get to the island.
Right. So it worked.
It worked, but it took a little research.
I've got a question. This is kind of going to bring us back into business, but I actually do want to get this one in. Jamin G, he said, can we get into some nitty gritty of the business side? How does the publishing side work with Ominous?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah,
it is a great question. That's why I wanted to sneak that one in.
How does it work?
Yeah, he wants to know, how does the publishing side work with Ominous?
Well, it's like other publishers, only it's better because when you go in with Dark Horse, you got to give up 50% of your property. With Ominous, they don't take 50%. I think it's 30 something like that. So that's a much better deal than you're going to get from other places. And they're very, very creator friendly because they're all creators, which I've just enjoyed the hell out of working with them all.
Yeah, you guys had a great booth at probably the best booth at New York Comic Con. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I sat down and bothered Graham for a bit. I had a Dark Horse meeting, and then when we went back, I'm like, hey. And I sat down with you.
And
you had a fan, and I'm just like, and the fan had no idea who I was. It's like, why is this guy like getting into my Graham Nolan time? Because you're doing a commission for him. And I just like, we just started laughing, and I saw him because at that moment he was Graham Nolan's friend, and there was a line of other people, and this loudmouth idiot just comes and sits down next to you. And we start talking about hippies and smoking cigars and drinking scotch and stuff like that. And the guy got very upset with me.
What's not to get upset with?
Indeed.
So, okay, if we've had the talk about like why Ominous, you also mentioned that they were pretty good at the fulfillment side of this with the packaging and all that. Was there anything else that you felt stumbled over at all, or was the first one pretty smooth?
First one was pretty smooth because as far as content goes, it was all done. I had already done it. So that aspect, is where you kind of run into problems sometime with deadlines, getting stuff done in time to get to print for fulfillment and all that.
Yeah.
That's a mistake I think a lot of people make, is that they get their crowdfunding thing going before they have either the project completely done or on track to being finished. we're on track. This is 64 pages of story, and I'm working on page 40. 46.
Wow.
So that's
Pages.
really pretty good. When you're working
Oh,
on
beautiful.
this project,
Yeah, you posted that page. Beautiful.
Yeah.
when you're working on this project, which obviously you're pouring a lot of love into these pages, how fast are you?
I think I'm a little slower than when I'm working on corporate comics, to be honest. I have a reputation as being a very on-time guy. I've never missed a deadline, 35 years, and I've saved DC countless printing bills and editors have slept at night because I finished something on time, even though when it was running late. So I can move pretty quick through a story. But this one, handling everything, writing it, illustrating it, and everything, I tend to think a little bit more on it. It's not like get it down, get it done, get it out. It's more like, okay, what's the best way to do this here? I gotta move things around. I want it to be as perfect can get.
So do you do full script and then revise, or what are you talking about?
No, I'm working from an outline.
Okay.
It's much more
Marvel style.
Yeah, but I'm the only guy doing it, so it's much more free form. Like I'll change things. What I did was I started with an outline of the story, and then I broke it down into story beats. So, I'd have page 50 through 54, I have to get from here to here, and 55 to I got to get this done. Here's a scene change, blah blah blah. So I broke it down into story beats. So that's what I'm working through now. I've got the story completely beated, and now it's just a question of visualizing it, and then I go back and I write the dialogue to it. I write it on my layouts, basically what I want to say and stuff. And then when I go through it again 2 or 3 times, I revise it and I realize I need to foreshadow something here, and I got to put that dialogue in back here, or I need to add some aspect of their character in the dialogue, or something like that. All that little tweaking that you do to make it run smooth. So it's kind of nice to work that way with the freedom. But like when I'm writing stuff for somebody else, like for Brett, I write that full script.
Well, Brian Blevins wants to know, in all these years, have you experienced any pressure to go strictly digital? Like the hell with paper?
Well, no, there's no pressure to do it.
I mean, you have experience with Sunshine State as a webcomic.
Well, it isn't pressure. It's a choice. It's a tool. It's whatever tool you want to use to create the image, the end product, so to speak. I have an iPad Pro, so I do all my layouts and pencils, so to speak, digitally. And then I blue line them, print them out, tighten them up in real pencil where they need it, and then ink over it old school, so that I have original artwork, that's tactile, that I can hold. And that saves me a lot of times. The digital aspect at that stage is fantastic because I can import reference, I can change proportions, I can move characters around, all that kind of stuff very easily. And then once it's out on Blue Line, then it's locked down, and all the heavy lifting has been done, and now it's just a question of finishing.
So can I fly up there to see you, because Nile Scala, partner of Crowdfunding Comics, sent your pal Bill Tucci a iPad Pro, and I'm terrified of trying that.
Oh.
He's like, do this. I want to see you doing the art on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you could help me do that, I really want to do it, because I could just imagine the time that's being saved.
Bring those Cohibas with you.
Indeed. Indeed. I got Romeo and Julietas. I got Monte Cristos. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then I will help you.
So, well, Nile, we're coming on an hour and a half.
Yes.
Do we have any fun questions, perhaps, to ask the great Graham Nolan? And we will have you back on, Graham. Would you like to come back on?
I would love to come back on.
When it's ready to start pushing the book and shipping it out, or at the end of the campaign, have you on for a half hour or so? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the heck out of it.
so, Nile, you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, why don't we go through some of the fan questions that we have? We pulled some
that'd be
aside
cool.
if you don't mind. So, Mitchell Coleman, let's see, Graham, do Airboy or Skywolf someday?
That's not a question.
Well, he's doing an Airboy variant cover. Right?
Well, yeah, I did a variant cover. I did an Airboy cover back in the initial run with Eclipse.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
I think it was number 25 or 26, something like that. And Chuck and I met doing Skywolf.
Mm-hmm.
First project we ever did together was Skywolf.
I think his question is probably referring if you plan on doing any more in the future.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
I'd be open to it, you know.
And then Kevin Freer, are you attending Terrificon this summer again?
Oh,
I have not been invited to Terrificon this year, so I don't know.
you got it.
We will have
that
to.
was-
We'll have to call Mitch.
that was one for the
My
ages.
invite
God,
must have got lost in the mail, Mitch.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we actually had.
If you're watching,
Graham,
Mitch.
we actually had Graham. We had the first official Graham Nolan Hawaiian shirt.
Oh,
Con.
that's right. That
Yes.
was there.
Yeah.
And
Cigars.
that
and we
French girl smoked that cigar and blew it out her
Yes.
nose.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, we're like-
We'll see her 5 years from now. She's like, no, I only smoke. I don't
Graham,
smoke
how are
cigarettes.
you?
I smoke cigars. And she's
nice to meet you.
Yeah. She'll blow the smoke out the hole.
Well, we all wore our Hawaiian shirts, and next thing we have to get fedoras or whatever the smaller Frank Sinatra
the old
hat is.
pork pie hats at Sinatra.
What's it called?
wore.
A pork pie?
Pork pie.
Pork? Like a
Pork
pig?
pie. Yeah.
Pork pie hats. We need to get those. But that was great, man. That was a good time. We were
That's
sitting
what we
outside.
should have did tonight. We should all wear our Hawaiian shirts.
I
I
know.
did.
I know
Oh,
you
how many
did. I'm
times,
like,
eh?
oh man,
Monster Island time.
Monster
That's-
Island time. We'll have to do
that's
that when you
what
come back on.
If I may, would Graham ever entertain the thought of doing more DC or Marvel if asked? Or are you done with corporate comics?
Right now, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm more interested in doing creator-owned stuff. But you know, if the right project came along and the right people were involved, and the right people left those companies,
Absolutely.
then yes. Because I love them. I loved Marvel and DC Comics. You know, that's what got me into doing it. You know, that's where my passion came from, and it's you know, I don't recognize the companies that exist today.
Yeah.
So you know, if they ever made changes, you know, then yeah.
Well, the one thing that really shows is that you really are passionate about our craft, about your craft, about our industry.
Absolutely.
You've been doing 35 years. You've been surviving. You've been thriving. It's a true honor to have you on. We don't want to keep you on way too late because you have more pages to do. But maybe we can have a little fun with a question. Niall, I know there's a question you love to ask everyone.
This is my question, and as a man that loves monsters and all those wild things, and I'm a huge
Conspiracies and crazy.
yeah, I'm a huge paranormal guy. So, do you believe in UFOs, Bigfoot, and ghosts?
Or ghosts.
Or ghosts and ghosts, whichever.
No, maybe, and no.
Wait,
Oh.
you don't believe in UFOs. You might believe in
Believe in
Bigfoot, but you don't believe in
There could be an ape-like creature somewhere that has been undiscovered. UFOs, as soon as you start thinking about UFOs, the closest that they could be, they have to travel from some place that was light years away. So they have to have a technology or an age span that would allow them to travel that kind of a distance. And you're going to travel all that way and land in a fucking cornfield and not make contact? I don't think so.
Or did they?
I've seen UFOs, so that's a whole nother conversation. And Graham Nolan, you have to be in on that one.
Yeah, well, you
And
saw something you
ghosts.
couldn't identify.
No, I did not, but it was not an aircraft. It was. I'll get into that. That's a whole nother great show. One time I was at the drive-in movie theater on Long Island. I saw something, and next time I was outside of Roswell, New Mexico, hunting.
I've just got to say, in all seriousness, I was at a drive-in and I saw a UFO is like a great setup for either a joke or a great story.
I got to tell you what I saw flying over.
Well, let me just say this though, Billy. I mean, I do believe there's life out there. The universe is vast and huge, and there are planets that have life on it. There's no doubt about that. But have they visited here? I don't think so. That's my take.
All right.
And no
Well,
ghosts, huh? No belief in ghosts?
Don't
No,
believe
I
in
really don't
ghosts.
believe in ghosts.
Really?
You know,
You got to come
not
to
in
my
the
house.
sense, not in the sense
I
that
gotta tell my
they
stories.
haunt houses and stuff like that. But you know, as a Catholic, you know, I believe in the Holy Ghost. I believe in that kind of stuff. But I don't believe in you know, haunted houses and stuff like that.
Would you agree to an evening of booze and booze? Get it? Booze.
Oh, boo, BOOS. Oh, and
Yeah, and BOOZE.
I think he thought you meant booze and boobs.
No, booze. Oh my God. And candles, and we can just talk about horror, and we all have green and purple lights. It's gonna be very
that would be
Basil
awesome.
Go-Go's.
That would be a lot of
Very
fun.
Basil Go-Go's, very the monster models. Remember the with the Forgotten Prisoner and stuff like that. We got to and we got to have a night like that.
Watch Ray Milland and the Uninvited.
Yes. So okay, Graham. That said, what is the scariest thing to ever happen to you, aside from you being on the running board of the Volkswagen and falling off and smashing into a car, and a couple of kids on roller skates, and then going to see a Charlie Bronson film that you don't remember? You don't believe in ghosts, right? You don't believe in ghosts.
No,
You might
I don't.
believe in Bigfoot. What's the scariest thing to ever happen to you? Weirdest, creepiest, scariest thing?
Weirdest, creepiest.
I hope it's a ghost story.
Yeah, me too. We're all, everyone on Facebook, and I mean on YouTube right now is leaning in closer and closer.
Yeah. Like, what is it?
No, the scariest thing was it was a health thing that happened to somebody.
Oh, we don't want that. We don't want.
Yeah.
We talk fun,
But-
not.
Yeah, no, I can't think of anything that I've been scared before. This is kind of funny. Julie comes down here one time, right?
See, that's where we're
There
going.
you go.
Yeah, she comes down here, and I had scared her recently. And we were up brushing our teeth, and she had hiccups, and she goes, "Oh, I can't get rid of these hiccups." And I just kind of turned to her and went, "Wah!" like that. And her eyes went like this, and she was silent for like 30 seconds, then goes, right? But I got rid of her hiccups. So a couple days later, I'm sitting down there drawing, and she walks down the stairs, comes around behind me, and I'm waiting for her to say something. I'm like, I turn around and I look, and she's standing there, and she goes like this with vampire teeth in her mouth. And I went like this.
There you have it.
Scared the piss out of me. It was so funny.
The mob scene has IRS story. Yeah, that's the scariest ones ever. Anyway, guys, Graham, I know we've been on for over an hour and a half. Thank you so much for coming on. Please, everyone out there, go to Monster Island Part 2. He's on Kickstarter. Please support him. If you can't support him, I know that it gets tough. Share it if you can. Graham, do you have your Instagram or Twitter or anything you'd like to share?
Well, they can get me mostly on Facebook. I do have Instagram. I have no idea what my name is. I think it's
G Nolan 12.
12. Yeah, that's it. G
What's
Nolan
up with that?
12.
That's a whole
Yeah.
other conversation. G Nolan 12.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm on
Because you couldn't get G Nolan 11.
I was born on the 12th.
Oh, okay. March 12th.
Yeah, March 12th.
March 12th. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just hope that, the fans of comics that just love the art form. I think a lot of things we run into with comic fans is that they're not necessarily fans of the art form so much as they are fans of corporate characters. And most of my career has been dealing with corporate characters. And what I want those people, the people that followed me and really enjoyed, is to maybe think outside the corporate view and think outside the corporate characters and think of comics as an art form and the great ideas that are out there that so many people are producing these days, these great independent comics. It's really the future of great ideas, you know, and with your support, this stuff will become much more mainstream. And not only will the artists be in a better position to create more stuff because they can support themselves better than working for these corporations, and you'll have helped to do that. So thank you, everybody who has supported all these independent projects. I hope you'll continue to do so. You know, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, and like you said, to add to that, all of our homes are now the houses of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you guys could support it or share it, or if you out there have your own comics, you have your own comic book ideas, you can do it. If we can do it, you can do it. It's a lot of hard work, but it can be done, and you can do it. Jeff Vaughn right now has a Kickstarter going for Vampire PA, Bite Out of Crime, which features a vampire.
You want to switch to that one, Frank?
Vampiric Al Capone, and maybe we could switch to him, and then after Jeff's is done, we'll give our crowdfunding call out. But we should all say goodbye to Graham Nolan. Thank you. You took so much of your time away from the art table. We appreciate it. Guys, go follow Graham on Kickstarter. Follow him on Instagram. He's GNolan12. And Twitter. And please support Monster Island too.
Return to
Monster Island. I apologize.
Yep. That's okay.
It's a beautiful book. It brings us back to why we love comics, why we love good storytelling. And man, you're one of the best. Love you, pal.
Yes,
really
man.
awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Oh, Nile, Jeff, I had a great time. Really, I thank you from the bottom of my heart to bring me into your virtual living room here and get the opportunity to talk to, you know, your fans as well. So thank you very much.
You got it. Rock and roll. So maybe if we can, we could play Jeff's Vampire PA Bite Out of Crime video, and then we could lead right into Mark McKenna, who's on Kickstarter with Combat Jacks.
All right.
All right. Good night, Graham. Good to see you, brother.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, guys.
Salute.
Salute.
We're still on, just so you guys know, because we're going through the video.
Okay. Sandra, are you done drinking?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Yeah, I got mine. My wife just informed me that the pilot light went out. The boiler. Like, we have no heat. It's like, oh, I got to go down there and light the pilot light. We have a draft down there in the basement. I don't have a full basement. We have
oil heat?
No, we have gas. Full gas. So I have So I have gas. Then I have like the house. My house is so old that we just have it will make a great wine cellar. But when it's very windy, the draft can get under the house and go in and it'll blow out the pilot light a couple, twice, 3 times a year. So she's like, we have no heat. I'm like, I have to go down there and.
You need a new
I have it in the garage. My brother is a master plumber, master boiler guy. I've had that boiler in my garage since I think August.
06.
Been too busy to put it in.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys, we're going to get to our crowdfunding call out. That was Jeffrey Vaughn's video for Vampire PA.
Right.
Bite Out of Crime one shot. That's gonna be my new favorite one shot, by the way. But just so you know, Jeff, I remembered the book I was looking for in my head, and it was actually Batman the Animated Series, Mad Love. That was my all-time favorite one shot.
That's a great pick, Nile. Hey, can I jump in and just say one little bit about my thing there?
Oh, we live.
I don't want to dwell on it a whole lot.
Are we live? Can people hear us?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on it because we're really talking about other people's stuff tonight. But we did add a whole bunch of updated rewards last night, and including a new Vampire PA sketch by the person's choice of character to be done by Mr. Tucci.
Yes. Tally ho. It's in. Tucci's doing the sketch. Please pledge.
Awesome. And if you guys want more information too, I mean, jump on Kickstarter or even go onto Facebook on our page. We're always posting Jeff's, Graham's, all their Kickstarter stuff and their information, their updates and whatnot. So again, guys, thank you very much. I am going to close out the show with our crowdfunding call out for Combat Jacks. This video I do have a full screen of that I'm going to play. You don't have to. I'll play the full screen, Frank. All right, guys.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Night,
Graham,
guys.